We're getting reviews in for the Acolyte, and already it's just getting completely roasted by critics. And okay, no, I'm not going to go on like that. For the most part, the critic response has been decent for the Acolyte. The only reason I have this Rolling Stone article brought up is because this is one that was kind of getting shared around a lot on social media, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that it's a negative headline for it. And at some point earlier today, it was taken down and then it came back up. So there's a lot of people saying like, oh, was Disney calling Rolling Stones and calling in favor, saying like, hey, don't badmouth us or anything like that. It's like, well, I doubt that's the case, because as you can see, the article is still here. And if Disney was to kind of contact them and actually make them change things, I think they would have changed the headline, because that's usually the thing that most people actually pay attention to. But this is kind of an outsider. Yes, not all the critics are heaping praise at the Acolyte, but there's quite a bit of praise to be had when it comes to critics, because you can see on Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 87% critic score. So not bad. I mean, not like, oh, wow, this is the greatest thing ever, but still not bad. You click on it though, top critics, it's quite a bit lower. That's not really a very good score, but still all critics pretty positive for it. I mean, yeah, I just wanted to take a look at some of these reviews, see what people had to say about it. The Acolyte feels to be largely about the Jedi and their weaknesses. In a past, emotion has been their weakness, focused on the most, but the series goes beyond that. All right. Quick, easy, positive review of the Acolyte in just 6 words. 0 minutes spent harvesting the grain. All right, that was good. Movie Bob said, okay, yeah, hats off to him for that one. That was a good one. One thing is for sure, by the end of Star Wars The Acolyte, the series is committed to making bold choices. That could be a good or a bad, but we'll just have to see. So yeah, you can see lots of positive reviews on here. I'm going to want to check out some of the negative ones, see what some of the complaints people have about it. Oh, let's just look at this one. AV Club Top Critic. What perhaps makes the Acolyte such an engaging and addictive watch over the first 4 episodes screened for critics, at least. That's another thing I want to point out, though, is when it comes to these critics, because a lot of them were invited by Disney to actually screen the show. So you got to understand, these critics are getting their screening so they can get it out first, their reviews out first, which is a big deal for them. But if there's kind of usually an understanding, like if you're a little bit harsh on it, then you're probably not going to be invited to these screenings in the future. So you're not going to get your review out before other people. So you can take these with a pinch of salt, because they are kind of incentivized to be a little bit more positive than what other people might be, but still they're positive reviews. So that's why I'm taking a look at them. All right, where was I? Okay, first 4 episodes screened for critics, at least, is its commitment to not treating the Jedi or the Star Wars franchise writ large as untouchable. There's a plus and minus when it comes to that, because yes, you shouldn't be afraid necessarily to do things different, but at the same time, you should respect the franchise, because if you don't respect the franchise, then I don't know why you're doing this. But okay, so what I was initially doing, going to check out some of the negative responses. Okay, right here from MovieWeb. Star Wars The Acolyte unfortunately lives up to the hype as a series that will divide fans. All right, not a good sign. Problems lie in the plot execution, overall vision of the characters, Star Wars universe, and puzzling inconsistencies in the use of the Force. Yep, that's pretty bad. 2 out of 5 they gave it. The show pulls back from its most audacious possibilities in a way that suggests the heavy-handed of brand management, chipping away at anything that might rock the boat. Okay, so they say they're just trying to play it too safe, I guess. This is the first Star Wars series to give off Star Trek The Next Generation vibe. It doesn't help that the show's momentum can be slow, with too many dull exposition pit stops, even as episodes clock in at a light 32 to 42 minutes. I like Star Trek Next Generation. That was a good series, but yes, Star Trek and Star Wars are completely different types of programs, so they're not necessarily going to attract the same audience. If you're a Star Trek fan, I don't know, maybe you'll like this better, but if you're a Star Wars fan and you don't like Star Trek, then I don't know, according to this review, it's probably going to be alienating to you. So, yeah, these are just some of the responses, but like I said, overall, it's pretty positive, but these are the critics' responses. Audience scores are ultimately what matters, because you can take a look at something like Obi-Wan, for instance, 87 for the Acolyte. So the Acolyte's doing better than Obi-Wan. Audiences were not that good. You can see here it's in the positive side, but it's still lower than the critics score. But one of the reasons I'm bringing up Obi-Wan, though, is because the budget for the Acolyte was reported to be around $180 million, compare that to Obi-Wan, where the budget was around $90 million. So pretty much like exactly half of what the Acolyte spent on it. And even though critics were more positive than the audiences, and you can look at the viewership figures for Obi-Wan when it came out, 2.14 million. That's not necessarily great for it, but or at least it wasn't great considering it wasn't good enough to actually renew it for a second season. Now, some people will say it's still profitable because just because it's not getting renewed for a second season doesn't necessarily mean it lost money. But with the way things have been going for Disney and Lucasfilm lately, I would assume that if they are making money on something, then they would continue on with it. But up until a couple months recently, Ewan McGregor said that they're not going to be doing a second season, or he said at most that he plans on playing the character again, which suggests that he could have a cameo in something else, but probably not going to be another season of Obi-Wan. But the reason I'm pointing out these viewership figures right here is because it says, according to Samba TV, 2.14 million viewers for the premiere episode. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because Disney doesn't always give us the viewership figures for their shows. Samba TV is a little bit better about giving it to us for all these shows. And even if they're not necessarily the most accurate because they are a third party, we still have something as a point of comparison versus Disney. We might not necessarily actually get the numbers from them when they come out in like a week or something like that. I don't know, probably a couple of weeks before we actually see those. And these are what I'm concerned about, or at least the viewership figures and the audience score for this, because right now we got this metric right here. A show that cost Disney Plus $90 million to produce and was able to bring in 2.14 million viewers during the premiere episode, according to Samba TV. Now, let's just see what happens when it comes to the Acolyte, because supposedly it should have double these viewership figures, according to Samba TV. If it's not able to actually get this, then that's a pretty bad sign for them, because, like I said, Obi-Wan wasn't enough to actually renew it for a second season. So it stands to reason to say that it probably lost money for Disney. And if the Acolyte can't even beat this figure, then that's a pretty bad sign for them. And one of the things that Obi-Wan had going for is it was a show based off of a beloved legacy character. The Acolyte is kind of starting fresh. Now, on the one hand, that's kind of good because you are starting with a clean slate. You don't have any baggage whatsoever, but at the same time, you don't have any characters that the audiences are excited to see. So I don't know. Plus a lot of the other baggage around this, a lot of the stuff that series creator Leslie Headland has said about this and other things, it's not necessarily a good sign, because you can even take a look at a lot of the videos that they're releasing on the official Star Wars YouTube page. All the trailers are getting ratioed. This video was released just 4 days ago. It's not as bad ratio as some of the trailers, but still, it's not a good sign. So it looks like there's a lot working against this show, but I guess we'll know more once we start seeing some of the audience reaction and see what audience scores are for this, and especially once we start getting the viewership figures for this. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Do you think this is going to be a show that actually has good viewership and people like it, or do you think this is going to be another failed Disney Plus Star Wars show? Comment below, let me know. And if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And if you can, click that like button and share the video, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.